Hey, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to look at Affinity Publisher, which is part of the Affinity suite of products that include Photo, Designer, and Publisher. And if you're not sure what Affinity, any of these are, they're the equivalent to Adobe PhotoShop, Illustrator, and InDesign. And their similarities are very, very close. Obviously, the originals are going to be a little superior in some of the more nuanced things that most people will never use them for. So the fact that the Affinity products gives you essentially what you want out of a program without having to give you all the extra bells and whistles of the things you don't care about or even know you need really makes this worthwhile, because if you know anything about Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign as a part of the Creative Cloud, that costs you either $20.99 per license per product per month, or $52.99 for the entire Creative Cloud suite, which is still, I think, only half of the library that Adobe offers, which is still a deal outside of getting each of them individually, but not a deal in the fact that you never really own the product. You're only licensing it month to month, and then until your bank tells you, hey, guess what? We're gonna repossess all of your stuff because you can't keep up with your bills because Adobe's charging you too much for software that you only need to use once every 3 months. Who wants to do that? So welcome to Affinity. Affinity is your solution to getting past all of that. And if you buy anything from them between now and June 20th, 2020, you'll get 50% off. Or if you're not sure you want to buy yet, but you want the trial, you get 90 days free instead of the requisite 14 that most software gives you. But you can see that their products, this is the stuff you can make with Affinity products. And they even have workbooks, which they have not put the publisher workbook out yet, but I am definitely looking forward to the day that they do, because then I can get all of them. And I don't necessarily want to spend $50 on each book, but they are textbooks, and textbooks cost money, so it is what it is. But anyway, I want to let you know that I recorded an earlier version of this particular part, and I decided it was too long and went well against my intentions. My intention really is just to show you what you can do with Affinity Publisher. I never intended to show you how to use it. So I want to make that clear now. I'm going to give you kind of the basic overview of Affinity Publisher, which right now we'll go over to the site. And the link I'm giving you in the description will take you right to this page. So if you are interested, go ahead and click on the link and take a look, and you can check out all their tutorials and whatnot. But if you really want to learn how to use the program, I would highly recommend you go through their tutorials or go on Udemy and get a Affinity. Yeah, there's actually some tutorials on Affinity products, not just Publisher or Designer or Photo. But if you are interested in any of these, check out their tutorials. Trust me, they are good. I've been watching a lot of them, and I've been learning a lot, especially on how to use Designer and Photo, because I think Publisher, it's a bit more intuitive for me as a writer and as a person who's put books together before, but I'm still always having trouble with any kind of Photoshop equivalent, and definitely with Illustrator, because that's all vector-based and I don't get any of that. So their tutorials really do help, so take a chance to look at them. If you decide that you want this, then let me show you what you can actually do with it. So again, I'm not going to go through a tutorial. I'm going to instead show you just sort of the basic overview, and then I'm going to show you the final product that I created using Publisher. Again, on camera originally, but because it was so clunky and clearly not the product of a well-versed expert, that's why it was an hour and a half long and not 15 minutes like it should have been. So I'm going to aim to keep this under 15 minutes. So I think I'm already 5 minutes in, so I should probably move on. So you're going to get a splash screen like you would any other photo product or any other design product. If you are interested in what they're offering, great. They do have some pretty good plugins. Do I own any of them? No, right now I have just the program. But one thing that's really nice about Publisher in particular is if you have all three of their products, Photo, Designer, and Publisher, you can actually click the personalities, or what they call I think is it called the persona. You click on each one and you'll call up a different set of tools. So you'll see, nothing's lit yet because I don't have any documents posted, but if I did, you could see all these lit. But each one calls up a different set of tools that are rooted in the base product or base app that you have. So if you have all three of these, which again, right now until June 20th, it's $75 for all three. And again, one time only, you never have to buy them again, at least as far as I know. And if there's ever a major update, maybe. But trust me, if that ever happens, it'll be worth upgrading. So I don't think you'll mind spending $75 or even $150 again if it comes to that. But anyway, all right, I'm wasting time. Let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at what you can do here. So you can go ahead and go into new, and if you can also access from the splash screen you probably saw, and it's going to give you an option to choose your paper size. I don't love the format that they present this in. Everything's by millimeter, and I like to do things by inches. If you've seen part 2 of this series, you'll know that the best PDF size is the paperback size. So your choices are 5 by 8, 5.5 by 8.5, or 6 by 9. I'm partial to 5.5 by 8.5, so that's how I have mine set. But if you like a different size, go ahead and set it. This is where you would do that. What's nice about this is these chains here, they're locked. So if you change, for example, if you decide that you want 1/4 of an inch margins, they're all going to change 1/4 of an inch. And I don't particularly want 1/4 of an inch, so I'm going to put them all back to 5. With Word, you have to do them all individually, which is a pain. But we're going to assume that everything is correct as is because it remembers my profile, and this is what I had. So create. And I just want to give you a quick overview of the interface, but I'm not going to create the book in this video. I'm going to show you the end result of the book that I did create, and then we'll kind of reverse engineer it. I just find that's the quickest and easiest way to show you what it can do. And that way you're not worrying about all the flubs that I've made trying to get you a different version of a video that honestly is probably unwatchable. So you should be thanking me right now that I'm not making you watch that version of part 4. All right. I don't know, unless you really like really awful things. In which case, sorry. Anyway, right now what you have is you've got your layout of pages, you have your palette. Why do you need a palette? This is like where you can change your font color. If you have vectors that you want to add in, like if you want the diamond tool in here, you can draw a vector. And if you want to change the color, just change the wheel, and you can change the interior of the wheel here. So that's all cool. This is your outliner. So if you're doing text, your outline will show up in this color and your base text will show up here. So if you're doing fancy text or art text, hello. I should just say hello. And let's say this is our cover. I might decide, you know what, I don't particularly like that color for my title. Maybe I'll change it to pink. So I'll move the cursor around. Actually, I'll move this around. And when I say this, what I really mean is when you got to highlight it and then move. Da, da, da. See, so it's like any other Photoshop or any kind of program where if you want to change the attributes of your text, you should have your text highlighted. I do think there's another way you can do that without having it highlighted. I've seen others do it. But again, I'm not an expert here. I'm just showing you what your options are. I'm not showing you how to use the program. So again, if this is interesting to you, by all means, get the program and then go watch the tutorials. And in fact, you don't even need to keep watching this if you don't want to. Just go get the program. I'll understand. Trust me, I'll understand if you duck out early and go buy the program and then go watch the tutorials on how to use it. But if you do want to continue watching this, I'll show you the end product of what I have on my book. So we're not going to actually do this as a cover page, but it's an option if I wanted to. And so that's what's nice. If you do Word, you're not going to probably get this as effectively. I think Word can do something kind of similar to this, but it's not good and it's not consistent. So if you want to add a page like you would in InDesign, you just click on the little button here and it'll add a page and you'll tell you how many you want. If you know your book is going to be at least 20 pages, I would write 20. Not there, sorry, up here. I told you, I'm not an expert. Get the tutorial. I'm just showing you what it can do. And then I hit OK. And that's one way we can do this. But you'll probably notice if you look carefully, you'll see something called master pages here. You'll see that I got master A. Well, that's all I got because that's all I've got defined up here. And oops, cancel. And if you aren't sure what the master page is your page template. If any page template or any master page you apply to a main page, it's going to change the whole thing. So what we're going to do, I'm going to actually load my book and I'm going to show you the end result of what I've done on my version. And then we'll kind of reverse engineer it so you can kind of get a sense of some of the things you can do. And I'll just give you a really quick overview and then we'll call it a day. By then you should be able to decide if you even want this. But hopefully you'll begin to see how much better your ebook can be, or your PDF in particular, or even a paperback if you're doing paperback, how much better it can be than if you use just Microsoft Word. And I want to reemphasize something that I've said in part 2. The problem with Microsoft Word is that if you make any changes, everything in that section changes. And if you're not careful, you might even end up affecting the entire book by one change of, let's say, a typo. That's too much pressure to get things wrong. I don't recommend it. Trust me, I've done books in Word. It can be done. And here's the proof of that. See, competent but difficult. But it shouldn't be done if you have a better option. So I think Publisher is the better option, and I want to go ahead and show you Shellout as converted through Publisher so you can see the difference, okay? And if you need to go back and refer to part 2 so you can see the difference, please do. All right, so give me 2 seconds and I'm going to load that up and then we'll go from there. So here's my book Shellout as according to Affinity Publisher, and you'll see that you've got the cover, I've got the title page, got the copyright and all of that. Got pretty much a lot of the stuff you've already seen in the original version, but what you have different now is you got a nicer formatted text with, what is that in the background? Is that a little green $? Oh my, that's something I can't do in the other program, not effectively. You know, oh look, I got my little headers and footers and my page numbers, and I even have my page numbers starting at the table of contents. Actually, in my last video, I started on edition page. I decided to put on table of contents instead. I'll have to go back and review what actual book design should look like. I don't know if I did that properly, but one page doesn't matter. The important thing is if I don't want that, I just can take it away. But one thing to remember too is a lot of my pages here are set up to master pages, and I've got, I think, 6 of them. No, I got 5 of them. So each master page, if I click on it, I'll just open up. This is the base of what they look like. You'll see I have a little number sign there. Have, you know, one with my name on it. You know, down here I have just the cover. This is to remind me that only the cover will get this master page. And then E is my blank with the pound sign. And the reason why I did this one is because all my back matter doesn't have the $sign. So or the header footer. So just on the surface, you can see how you have a lot more control with how your book looks through something like this. But the other thing you want to keep in mind too is that you also have much more fine-tuned styles. Like you'll notice that I've got my hyphens in here are much better spaced. I don't always love having 2 here, but I have the power to change that if I want to. I'm not going to do that again because I've already set the book. I'm not going to make too many changes, but again, when you go through the tutorials, you get a sense for the things you can do. One of the reasons why designers choose InDesign over Word is because just even at the hyphenation level, hyphenation's garbage in Word. But one thing's nice about this particular program, and even InDesign, if you decide you do want to go the expensive route, is you can change your hyphenation rules. So if you don't want hyphens, you know, every second line, then you can change that. If I only want one, I got to go to my text tool, I think. There we go, sorry. So if I want to change my max consecutive, based on what I've highlighted to, let's say 1, where did I have that? Right here. If I change it to 1 here, you'll notice it went away. So you have that kind of fine-tuned control. It's nice. So even just on that level, it's definitely worth it. So the other thing, just to kind of give you an overview too, is what's nice about this program is it'll show you where the links are. So what you're going to do is you'll see these little arrows. These little arrows, they point to the next page. Whenever you're copying from a different source, you are going to have to pay attention to how much room you've got. Chances are you're going to paste more than what you've set up in your page layout. So you probably have to add more pages to make sure it all fits. So you're going to get this thing called the inspector here, this little button. This inspector is going to tell you all the problems that you potentially have. Greens and yellows, typically you can ignore. Yellows are more cautionary, but they're not essential. But when you see red, that's the stuff you got to pay attention to, because that's the stuff that can potentially break your source. You're going to likely see the red if you have a text that overflows your document, but you fix it by just adding new pages and then clicking the arrow to point to the next page. So the other thing I want to tell you before I end this video is watch where your lines go, because your line's going to point to where your next content page goes. The reason why that's important is if you are doing a mass import and you find that for whatever reason, maybe your computer's lagging that day. Remember, this is just a program and it reads off the clock, and if your computer's slow, then there might not be any synchronization that's adequate, and then you might find that your pages come out of order, which is exactly what happened to me in the last video. And I spent a good chunk of the video trying to resort the pages and giving bad advice, so that's the other reason why you're seeing this version and not the previous one. My pages were all over the place. These lines were like drawn like 50 pages down, and so the good news is I can at least determine where the page should go based on whether or not I see the shape. So that's something, kind of a pro tip, if you just decide that you want this program and you use it, check for these shapes, because they're going to tell you exactly where they point to, and if they're pointing into the right location, then you'll know that your page is in the right order. But if you do have to move a page around, you can easily just drag it around. Where it goes will depend on, see your little bar moving left and right here. If you put it to the left, it's going to go to the top. If you put it to the right, it'll go underneath. So that's something to keep in mind. Something I didn't know last time I did this. So again, pro tip. But really, that's the key. And then I'm going to show you the end result of the PDF, and you can see how it looks nicer. So we're looking at the new PDF for Shellout, and compared to what we saw in part 2, you'll see that it looks so much nicer. So you got the little background there, and it's made, oh, I have my drop caps. It made good copy. And I think it's really nice. So you'll see this on the Google website, which we're going to review tomorrow. And I don't know, I'm happy with it overall. So I think you would be too if you decided to invest in this, if you care about your ebooks. And just once again, before I go, I want to remind you that they have a sale until June 20th, 50% off. What that translates to, we get under the bottom. So I don't think I talked about price, I just talked about how much off it is. $24.99 for Mac and Windows. So it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. And again, if you want all 3 products, they're all $25 right now, regardless of whether you have Mac or Windows. And they're doing it for COVID. So if you want to support them, if you want to support yourself, go ahead and get this. I think it's worth it. I totally think it's worth it. And I do think that all 3 are worth it if you want to up your game, because again, you can design within your book, or you can design outside and then import. You have a lot of options. So, you know, save the money on cover artists and do your own cover. Learn how to do it. It's just like Photoshop. It's good. So anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. And we do have one more video coming. I don't know if there'll be a part 6 or not. I'm going to go ahead and tag it with a part 6 ending just in case. But I don't know for sure that we're going to have one. I can tell you that if we do have one, it's going to either be advanced EPUB, which is going to happen only if I have the time to research on how to do better EPUBs, or it might be how to do promotions with Google, which again, both of them are up in the air, and I can tell you right now they won't be tomorrow, or they won't be this week. If there is a part 6 or part 7, it'll be down the road, and I can't promise you when or if that'll happen, only that it might. So anyway, just kind of give you a preview. I'm telling you that now because I didn't tell you that in part 5, and I'm not going to go back and record that video too. So anyway, all right, well, thanks for watching, and come back for part 5, which will be up tomorrow, and this is where we'll actually review the results of Google and my store page and how everything looks, and how your book can look too if you decide to go with Google, which hopefully by now you've already decided that this is for you, and you've already done it, and you already see the results, and you don't need my video. But because you're watching this anyway, maybe you do. I don't know. So come back. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.